everybody for joining this session with us today. For the people who are new,
I guess your voice is not
as
clear
to
enough.
what living life where you have joined is all about.
Pragya, your voice is
This is
breaking.
something which
Yes, it is
was
totally breaking.
started around 14 years
Sorry, the sound is so
back.
visible.
Okay.
Pragya, uh, Pragya, you can switch off the video of your laptop then.
Yes. Is it better now? Am I audible now?
Yes, yes, yes. Now it is perfect.
Yes. Great. So thank you everyone for joining us for today's session with Living Life. For the people who are new here, I'll just brief you as to what Living Life is all about. We started with this particular brand around 14 years back, and this was the birth child of Rahul Jain. He is a motivational speaker by his choice or passion, I would say, an entrepreneur by his profession. And he has a keen interest towards motivating people, and that was the reason this whole concept of living life came into picture. We have been working and delivering different seminars, workshops, and other things into colleges, corporates, and many other areas, social fields, NGOs, and much more. All these sessions were initially motivational sessions, but now we have also got into technical sessions of communication skills and much more since last few years. This particular series that we have started was with the concept of getting people together at one platform, because pandemic when has given tensions to a lot of people, I would say, but has also given us opportunities to learn and to connect with people. We have done almost 30 sessions till now. These sessions were initially done on Tuesday and Saturday, but now we have shifted them to Saturday, seeing everybody busy with their regular chores. Today's particular session is on a very interesting topic. You all must be reading on Facebook about the mental health day today. What I was keen about was we all get up in the mornings looking forward to a happy and interesting morning, having a good day ahead. But at the same time, there are many people who don't get up with the same hope. They are sad, depressed, demotivated, and at times so entangled in their own feelings that they really don't want to move forward in the world that's ahead of them. Let me make it very clear. When we are discussing about mental health, many of you might over here might be thinking that it's just about the people who have mental illness. These two things are very different, although connected. When we talk about mental health, as we have other organs in our body, same as our mind. When it comes to health, the way we go to gym for our physical organs, our physical well-being, similarly, we also need to pay attention to this very small thing that controls our whole body. Because if that is not working well, our whole system goes on a toss. When I was studying more about this particular topic, I understood that many times our mental health gets affected not only by momentary things, but by accumulation of many thoughts, incidences, experiences, and situations. I read a very interesting story which kept me to study more about this particular topic. The story was of an elephant. Many of you must have heard this story because this was a WhatsApp story, and the story really intrigued me to think about it. There was a huge elephant who was tied with a rope, a simple, plain, thin rope. There was a person who was passing by and asked the caretaker of that elephant as to why does this elephant not move at all? It's such a strong being. And the person who was the caretaker told it in very simple words. It's all in his mind. When he was very small, I started tying him with this thin rope. And at that point of time, this rope was enough for him. But as he grew up, now this rope has tied his mind. How? Quite simple. He has been conditioned that he cannot move till the time he has that rope in his neck. And now, even when he has all the power to break these shackles and move forward, he still doesn't try to do it. Isn't that something that we all also have done with our own minds, and thus affecting our mental health? I don't say that this is something which we have done intentionally. We have come across situations which have tuned our mind to think in a particular manner, feel in a particular manner, and control our emotions in a particular manner. I will ask a very simple question to you and would expect an answer from somebody from the audience. When anybody comes to you and asks, how are you? Kaise ho? What is your reply to it? Can somebody answer me that? What is your most common reply to it?
I'm good. I'm fine.
Not bad.
Yes. But does that happen always? Are you always that well? Or you're just
No,
putting a
no.
mask? Sorry?
I'm just putting the good impression toward the people who are speaking to me and saying, "How are you?"
That makes
Yes,
sense.
exactly. In simple words, if I have to put it, you are putting a mask of showing it to people that you're happy, your life is going good, and you have the best things around you possible. But have
Yes,
you ever
exactly.
thought about it? Behind that mask, you are hiding so many emotions which are directly or indirectly affecting you here. You're not open enough, you're not strong enough, you're not confident enough to put those emotions in front of the world. You know why? Quite simple. Because that's how we have been designed to do. Even if a boy has to cry, he's always told that you're not supposed to do it. Even if a girl has to cry about some feelings which she's having, she's asked to go in a room, shut, and then cry. We are always brought up in a manner where we are supposed to control our emotions, not bring them out to the world. And even if we want to, there is always a conflict in our mind, a conflict of how will people perceive me? What will they think about me? And this is very common with people who are feeling situations of depression, sadness, feeling low, and to the extremes of a schizophrenic person, a person who is dealing with mental illness. He or she is even put on under more pressure to get subdued, to not express, to not show. How do I talk about it? With what authority? You might be thinking. Because I have gone through it, I have faced it, I have lived with it and dealt with it. How do we understand whether we are going through a bad mental health? Quite simple. For a few days, it just looks like everything is going fine. I'm just a little sad. Maybe the day is not good, or maybe it's just something which I'm thinking. It's not something related to my mental health. Would you do the same thing if you had a high fever? Would you do the same thing if you had a severe pain in your stomach? No, right? You would reach out to somebody, you will tell it to somebody. You would want to express it that I am going through this pain. But when we go through our pain here, we want to close it. We want to shut the doors. We just don't want anybody to see it. Right? Can I ask somebody of you as to whether there has been a situation, maybe if you don't want to express the situation to us, but have you been into situations where you really felt like speaking out, opening up, expressing the emotions, maybe of anger, depression, sadness, or maybe much more? But the only
Yes.
thing you did was either go into your room, shut your door, and try to calm down, or maybe just stay quiet, feeling that hurt, feeling that emotion deep inside, making your heart so heavy that you wanted to break free, you wanted to break out. But the situations you have been brought up with did not let you do that. Can I please get a response from somebody?
Yes. Absolutely. Exactly. You are saying.
What about others? Have you never been into such situations? Umaji, have you been into such situations?
Always, ma'am.
Right. Would somebody want to tell me what did you do at that point of time? What was your way of expressing it? is your way of expressing it?
Maybe writing it down, like writing all our feelings or whatever we feel. Like the main thing is we fear whether others can understand it or not. And sometimes we may not even have patience to express all of it. But words are better, like writing is better for sure.
Right. So, yes, these are a few methods which we will be understanding going forward. Another question to you: how many of you have actually accepted that you are having these turmoil times with you? Do you really accept that I am feeling something inside which I'm not able to express, which is not going right, which makes me feel hopeless, helpless? I want to I want to expand my hand for help, but I'm not able to. I think all of us go through these emotions at least at some point of time in our life. Today's session is going to help you out with these feelings. But the only prerequisite to it is accept it and express it. Because till the time you accepted that, yes, there's something wrong, and just like any other illness or any other health issue, my mind is also an organ. I just need to look after health. So, first, accept it. And on this particular platform today, express it. Because trust me, we all are here to expand our hand of help to you. You just need to move a step forward. For today's particular session, let me just introduce the two people who are, I would say good at it. And we have an expert with us who is Kirti. Kirti has been into this field, and I would really want Kirti to express herself as to who she is and what she is, because my words will not suffice as to what work she has been doing. Post that, I also have Rahul Jain, who has been motivating people, and he has been working on with people specifically who have been facing these kind of issues on a personal counseling note. So I think today you're going to get a lot of inputs from these two people, and I am always there whenever you want to call me on a call away. So I would first call Rahul.
Okay. Thank you, Pragya, for that lovely introduction and setting the expectations for the session right. First and foremost, let me begin with a short story. The story is that of an alleged experiment that was done by Adolf Hitler during his World War II times. He did alleged experiments on prisoners of war. And one of the experiments that was done was to see the power of mind, of how powerful our mind is. And what he did was he had two prisoners of war into a cabin wherein he just cut off the veins of both the prisoners and let the dripping of blood happen, as a result of which both the prisoners of war would die. But surprisingly, the experiment was that he cut off the vein of one of the prisoners of war and just made a scratch on the hand of the second prisoner. Do you know what the result of that experiment was? Do you think both the people died as a result of loss of blood? Both the people died. One because of the loss of blood, and the second one thinking that he's losing his blood. That's the power of mind that we have. And it's so powerful that many of us even don't have an idea that how, in the bad times, it's merely the way our mind is thinking is what gets us down, not the reality in itself, but how our mind reflects upon an incident, a situation, an event that is happening around us, and how the power of mind is what is operating than the event in itself. That's where we are talking of mental health. That's where it is of paramount of importance that we are aware, like the title of the session is, being mindful, meaning being aware, being cautiously thinking about how our mind is operating over the fact that there are times when our mind is just full and it takes over the way we are operating and destroys our own lives. It need not be that everyone has to commit suicide when it's a matter of mental health. It can also be in that nagging pain that we have, the emotional numbness that we have at times when we don't know what is happening, where is it that we're heading to, and we are just not able to respond to the way we are truly feeling. And that's what we're talking of. How can we deal with things like this? How can we focus on building rather than just waiting for being in a whirlpool of a situation where we do not know what is happening? How can we actually nurture and build our mental health like you go to the gym for your physical health? How can we actually build our mental health? That's what the idea today is. And what we're going to do is first we'll begin with uh, Kirti. She's a counseling psychologist, a socio emotional educator, and a founder of Sai Within, which has already touched over 6,000 lives through her one to one counseling sessions and her group coaching and the sessions that she does for awareness and helping individuals in building their mental strength. So let me begin by welcoming Kirti Sharma, and let me have her the stage to share her thoughts about how we can build mental health. Over to you, Kirti.
Thank you so much, Rahul, and thank you so much, Pragya, for the very warm welcome. And I welcome all of you. Thank you so much. I can see good 2021 participants. So nice to be a part of this session today. A happy World Mental Health Day to everybody, just like any other festival. Let's also celebrate this day. Now, like very nicely pointed out by Pragya, we do have a mind, we do have a brain. And yes, that's true. We often wonder who, for whom is mental health important? Why do we have to take care of mental health? Well, if we have a brain and if we have a mind, yes, mental health is important. What is the purpose of today's little bit of,
Kirti, just a minute.
yes.
Can I request everyone, whosoever is possible, is not having internet bandwidth issue and is not having a challenge with privacy issues, please, please, please switch on your videos so that we can interact with humans, not with photos or names, because that's where what is we are lacking today. Today, with 6 months of lockdown, 6 months of lockdown, I think this is something that we have missed out on. Having a personal touch, having to talk to people rather than to kind of blank screens or just the names. If it's possible, please keep your cameras switched on. Thank you.
Thank you. So nice to see humans now and also some names. I welcome all of you. All right. So, what is the purpose of Mental Health Day, which we observe on 10th October every year? The purpose is actually to raise awareness and mobilize the efforts in support to mental health. Let me put, let me share a very common example. Of course, these times we are not going to somebody's place, but just back then, 7 8 months ago, just imagine a usual day and suddenly your guests call up and they say, hey, I'm coming to your place, can you just accommodate all of us? And they are 8 people, 8, mind you. All right, in that panicky situation, you try to arrange different food for different people. If there are kids, you would want to have fruits and probably chocolates, probably some toys to just engage those children. If there is any elderly person, you would want to have some sort of a bland food which they are comfortable with, and probably for young adults some spicy pakoras. Right now, what happens is when they come home, yes, we have all the variety of dishes in place. We also try to make an environment wherein everybody can be seated. We try and arrange different chairs for everybody. For kids, we may have smaller chairs or high chairs. For elderly, we may have more comfortable chairs. What is the idea here? The idea is to create an inclusive environment for everybody, wherein everybody fits in and wherein everybody feels comfortable and invited and welcomed. The same logic applies in the domain of mental health. We have to create an inclusive space for everybody. Just like we have different chairs for different people, we have to create an inclusive space whenever we communicate. This space of communication is so beautiful. And this, whatever I'm going to share, it is relevant for everybody because we are dealing with humans when we communicate. We are not dealing with objects. Objects won't feel, humans feel. And humans are the most volatile people, of course, in the whole world, as long as we don't have aliens on the earth. Yes, right? So whenever we are dealing with people, there are different sorts of communication. For example, interpersonal and intrapersonal. This would be beneficial for your workspaces, work settings, social connections, family connections, personal family, the space which we create with our own family members. Most importantly, the self-talk we have inside our mind. As a matter of fact, whatever we speak, suppose it is an X number of words we speak to others, into 100, if we do, the number which we get, that's the amount of thoughts which run inside of us. That is the intrapersonal, what is going inside of us. That is the self-talk. And this part is super, super important. As a trainer and as a counseling psychologist, I wanted to share certain tips and certain main points which we should consider while we are communicating with anybody for that matter, be it somebody from your own family or social connections, or at your workplace, or if you're a teacher, or if you are actually a trainer. And these are certain things which usually people miss out on. And because of this, there are a lot of gaps which get created. I have worked in Tihar jail, and this setting gave me so much of I would say a perspective towards life and perspective towards the society as a whole. And with that experience, I just wanted to share, I'll share four main points. And yes, there are so many more, but these are some blanket tips which I would want to share. First is take care of the cognitive bias. Just like a filter, we have a cognitive bias in our mind. This cognitive bias is the filter of thinking. This can result into probably stereotyping. For example, a child who sits on the first bench may be stereotyped as somebody who's a front bencher and a nerd. As simple as that. Stereotyping can also happen when we assume a particular person from a particular religion or a caste to be somewhat like what is said usually. This leads to labeling. The moment we label a person, we assume that this person is like that, and we don't see the reality how it is. So this is a cognitive bias. Very rightly pointed out by JP Mishra sir, this is the filter of thinking. We should not assume. Whenever we are faced with a situation, ask and confirm. Second point is create an emotionally safe space. We are often very apprehensive about what emotions are. This is a negative emotion, this is a positive emotion. No, emotions are only carrying some message. That's it. There is nothing is negative emotion, or there is nothing is positive emotion. Whenever we interact with anybody, please acknowledge what the other person is saying. Accept whatever emotions are being displayed. And the most important part of this is never tell a person that, hey, that is an angry man. No. We can rephrase our sentence or rephrase our saying by saying, that person is feeling anger at that time. And this little shift of words will mean a lot. Because the moment we label a person as being an angry person, that person will never open up. We have to also be very careful whenever we are talking to somebody, especially children. We may assume that those little bright kids may have a very loving, happy family, but unfortunately we've seen all the entire spectrum in the society. So whenever we're talking about people who are in their family, use the term loved ones instead of specifically using your mother who loves you or your father who loves you. There can be situations where this ecosystem is not there back home. So let's not assume. Third point, we have covered cognitive bias, our thinking filter, and the emotional safe space. Third, and the most important thing which we have to consider is the gender inclusivity. Whenever we talk to anybody for that matter, especially in the training area or even in the classroom settings, let's not assume a boy will be attracted to a girl. Let's not assume a girl will be attracted to a boy. The moment we do that, we exclude those who fall into the LGBTIAQ community. We have to have gender neutral words and names whenever we use. Instead of saying your husband or your wife, we can reterm it as your partner. Instead of using chairman or chairwoman, let's use chairperson. So now, even in the corporate trainings, we are very specific about these terms which are used. And it's important to inculcate all these into micro habits, wherein in the daily jargon, whatever we are using daily, let's be careful on that front instead of just going on the platform and pretending that we are gender neutral. We have to start with our own mind first. And yes, there are a lot of husband wife jokes on the roll always on WhatsApp. Let's not forward that because the children are watching, everybody's watching. These are micro habits which fall into our subconscious mind. We also use proverbs, to make a gender neutral space wherein we use his, her, they, all these proverbs. Fourth, and the most, again, a very important term, which will definitely help us sail through all these 3 points, is the fact that we have to take care of our reaction. Never, ever, 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 ever be quick to respond. Let the first reaction be positive or acknowledging. Take the pause. Always take the pause. With this, I want to share one little story with all of you. And this comes from my own personal experience of counseling a boy. I would obviously not disclose all his details, but what happened was he took 2 sessions back to back because he was under huge stress at that time. And he was on the verge of just leaving everything and probably going in for a very harsh decision of life. Now, in the first one session, he tried to, circumvent the problem, ye hua hai, wo hua hai, all of that. And we as professionals know that the surface problem which a person comes for is not actually the real problem. Now, when I was digging into the problem, he said that, there is something I really want to tell because now I am comfortable with you. Trust me, he took 15 whole minutes to say something. And I just kept waiting for him to say something. And what he expressed was, you know what? I'm a gay. And you know what my reaction was? Just 2 words. So what? I don't know where that reaction came from, but I just asked, so what? That was the day he just completely transformed. He was so underconfident. He was so preoccupied with this one label of his own because everybody was pointing out only or at his sexual orientation. But the moment I asked him, so what, he didn't have an answer. And, he changed his entire process of perceiving him the way he used to. And he's doing immense work now, even towards mental health. I just wanted to share this little case to share the fact that we have power of words with us. And let's promise today to be an ally of mental health. We may think that we are just, we are not a mental health professional. What can we do? We can. Whenever somebody is talking to us, all we need is to, take care of these 4 points. These are only few of the points which I wanted to share. And let's today be an ally, be it anybody who you are speaking to, be it anybody who wants to speak to you. Let's create that beautiful environment. And I wish you all the very best. And thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for listening. Over to you, Rahul.
Pragya?
Yes. Thank you so much, Kirti, for taking us through these important points, which I think all of us need to keep in mind. in line with what Kirti has said, there's a very small exercise with, we normally do a particular exercise in each of our sessions. For this exercise, I would request all of you to please switch on your videos. And it's perfectly fine in what situation you are in. We have 2 kids, we are at times messed up. So it's perfectly fine wherever you are, you can please switch on your videos. Can I also request Toastmaster Ali, Sricharan, Fawad?
Go ahead, Pragya.
Right. So this is a very small exercise that we all do. As this session is all about mental health, there is something which I would want you all to focus on. For that, what you have to do is you have to close your eyes for a second and just listen to each and every word which I'll be telling and try to go down your memory lane. I have a disclaimer. This might hurt. This might take you to experiences which you would have forgotten or you would not want to encounter at all. But trust me, if we really want to address and understand whether we are going through issues, any of these problems, we need to tap them. Till the time we do that, we don't understand what we have been facing or what is it that has been clenching us from inside. So for this activity, please, if possible, close your eyes. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So for this small exercise, please close your eyes and starting from your childhood, maybe. Think about situations, events, or things which people would have told you. They can be things like you're not good enough. They can be comparisons. They can be emotions which you did not express to anybody. When you felt low, you had nobody to talk to. Maybe you felt alone then. Maybe some of you saw your parents in not a very good, peaceful relationship, which somehow, somewhere hurt you inside. Maybe things you heard in your school, which you at that point of time ignored or did not talk about, but they hurt you inside and got you to a stage where people had expectations from you and you really wanted to break free from them. You wanted to live for yourself, but you suppressed them. Think for all these emotions today and try to understand, are you really happy inside? Are you the real person who shows to the world that you're happy, you are smiling, and you're in the best of your state? If not, then tap it, express it. Session today, you have all the leverage. Because till the time you express it with your anger, with your frustration, maybe you can just shout, cry, whatever emotion we want to express. Do it with us today. But tap it. Otherwise, it will stay buried in your heart and your mind till your last breath, and you will never be breathing free. Thank you so much, everybody, for this particular thing. And going forward, we have Rahul with us, who will be expressing his views. Post that, we are keeping the session open, and I would request everybody to please be ready with the expression of your emotion and break free with us today. Rahul, please take over. With this, I will hand it over to Rahul.
Rahul, you're on mute.
Okay, I'm sorry. First of all, let me thank you, Kirti, for that wonderful thoughts that you shared, the structured thought of 4 pointers that we have to keep in mind so that we can start working on our mental health and making the world a little better. And thanks, Pragya, for that wonderful activity. I believe it helps us touch base on who we are, deep within us. What is it that we think we are? With that, let me get on with a few things that I wanted to share today on this wonderful day. For the people who know me, for the ones who personally know me, would know me as one of the most positive guy and the most hard-headed person that they've ever come across. That's one thing that I can assure you. But despite that, despite that, let me tell you, I've had my low days. I've had my days where I've been challenged in my mental health. I've had my problems. I've had situations. That's to just say to you that mental health or the things that we're talking about today isn't about positive thinking. One thing that people often mistake it to be is mental health is not for the people who is only for the people who are into negative thinking or something. Even the most positive people also have challenges and there are ways in which they grow. So, from the experience that I've had, let me share with you all today a few things which, through my own experiences of setbacks and kind of having those low days where I was numb and not able to experience anything, through those things which I've learned, and that's where I've grown over these years and built myself. I've had those challenges even today, but yes, there are things that I learned that I would like to share with you all today. First and foremost, we are all biggest victims. The reason why biggest challenge we have in mental health is because we are all victims of acting normal, acting strong always, while we are not. Nobody is, and that's the reality. The biggest reason we think about acting is because we are always thinking of not the reality of what we're experiencing, but about how we'll be perceived as. And that's where we fall into this trap that we have to be perceived as a good human being, as a normal human being who's normal. Like Pragya already mentioned, whenever anyone asks you, how are you? Kaise ho? Our most often common reply is all is good, great, badhiya hai. But the biggest problem is this. I'm not saying you have to go and cry in front of the world, but my point is at least have that one person with whom you're able to acknowledge that I'm not fine, I'm not doing well. At least that one person in front of whom you can say or express your what you're truly feeling and not the way you're doing it to the world. And that's where we fall into this loop of negative thinking where we know what we are feeling and what we are expressing to the world is different. You often talk of double standards or we talk of split personalities. If you talk of it, we are all victims of it. We are all victims of split personality because what we are showing to the world and the world that we see within is very different. That's what you have to start working on. You don't have to be strong always. You don't have to act normal always. Break that glass if you want to. Do it. That's okay. But something will heal within you when you start doing that. That's what you have to talk about. The next thing that I have is we all play different roles. Role as someone who's working somewhere, or someone as a father, as a mother, as a son. In whatever roles that we play, each role comes up with a responsibility in a way you have to act. And there's the way the world operates is in that fashion that every responsibility, the way it has to be enacted or it has to be portrayed, has to be portrayed. But the point is, when we are so occupied in 24 hours a day, if you're always at any point in time playing a role, the biggest challenge is we always keep those masks on. And that's where we have to learn to unmask ourselves. You have to have at some point in time, even half an hour a day, 1 hour a day, where you're not putting on any mask of being a mother, being a father, being an employee somewhere, or being a stranger also. Today, even if you go to a coffee shop, look at the way you behave. Sometimes it's not who you are. Even you're conscious there of the role that you're playing as a stranger, how people expect strangers to behave. And that's where it has to change. What I'm saying is you don't have to unmask everywhere, but you have to make sure you know how the person looks without that mask. We often forget that. And that's where, again, the idea of split personality starts working on because who you are truly is often forgotten in this process of the roles that you play. And that's what we need to unmask and play around with that. Third, we are often burdened. If you take a if you talk of a mobile phone, if I hold it, how much weight will it have? It could be something like around 400 grams, 500 grams or something. But if I hold this for an hour, what will happen? It'll start feeling like that dumbbell that I carry in my gym, 2 kgs, 3 kgs. If I hold it like this for 2 hours, if I hold it like this for 6 hours, one day, sprain, 24 hours, 48 hours, paralysis, paralyzed. The problem is not the weight here. The problem is not the weight here. The problem is in you holding it for so long. The biggest challenge is we hold on to our emotions for so long, the negative emotions that burden us. And worst part is, as you burden yourself with negative emotions or the emotions that you are experiencing within, the more you burden yourself, it acts as a factor where it's doubling up. Look at how we worry. If you're worrying about something, look at how nothing is happening in reality, and yet you see how worry is growing, how it scales up without actually anything happening in reality. And you start feeling the burden more. And that's what we're talking of. When we burden ourselves so much that it starts to pain, we don't realize it starts to affect us and the way we are dealing with it. And that's where, like I said, you just have to put it down. I found 3 ways of putting down. I think already one of those was already mentioned by someone in this audience. First, what do you do when your bags are full? If you're carrying a bag, what do you do? If you feel your handbag is too heavy, what do you do?
We keep it down.
You keep it down, or you try to empty it. Whatever you do, keep it down is something like sleeping at night. Have a good night's sleep. I think a lot of things work out. I think Keith will agree with that. Often we are burdened with just carrying it always. A good night's sleep is more like a gym for the mind, I believe. Second, what I was talking of is emptying it. It's very important to take it out. That's what works wonders. When we take out what is there within, the best of negative emotions, even the worst of them, when we take it out, when you articulate them, when you take it out, that's where it starts working for us. And that's where we find the solution. By constantly brooding within our minds of whatever is going on, by doing that, you only increase the weight of it. By taking it out, you're helping, or you're giving a channel to that emotion outside you. Even if it's a thought, it need not be painful, or it can be just a constant lingering thought which is constantly there in your mind. How will I write my exam? Will he accept? Will it be all fine? Will I get that appraisal? Will that boss like me? It's not the thought until it happens. It's that constant lingering idea which goes in our mind. That is where the challenge is. And once you start putting it out, once you start talking to someone, it relaxes down because you have emptied your mind. That's what the power is. And the second way, you need not always empty it in front of the world. Like Pravalika said here, you can start penning it down. The idea is to get it out of your mind so that some fashion, in some way, it's coming out of your mind. It could be penning it down, it could be writing it on the paper and throwing it in the trash bin. However it is, in whatever form you want to, make sure you have an outlet for that emotion. And that's what works wonders in building a mental health. The biggest challenges are not in the problem in itself, like I showed you. It's not in the weight of the problem. It's how long you're holding it. That's where the problem is. And last and final thing, what really is the core problem where we are not able to express or we are not able to connect to people is the lives and the relationships that we have today. Today, after so many years of having mobile technology and connecting with the world over, do you think we are connected? We are connected with the world? Are our relationships much deeper? And what really makes it more painful is the fact that we are far, far more connected than what we were 20 years back, but far more lonelier than what we have ever been. And the reason for that loneliness is we start benchmarking or connecting with the people on the peripheral. We have become so closed in our emotions that we are not letting anyone in. And that's where, because I understand there's a reason to it, that we become we start experiencing that pain that someone will hurt us. But the more we limit people, the more we limit ourselves from deeper relationships, that's where the real pain is. We cannot connect to people at the peripheral. That's where you'll always have that doubt. You'll always have that lingering question, will he stay? Will he be there? With anyone, could be a parent, could be a relationship with anyone, could be your company, could be your relationship with your passion. What's important is how are you connecting with people, because that's where you'll find the answer to healing yourself, connecting with the world over, connecting with yourself deep within. We are always pumped up in today's world. We are pumped up with the likes that we get, the shares that we get, the views that we get for everything that we do, that we are forgetting the real impact that anything makes is what is much more important than what it is in perceived world or in the social world. So today, if I'm sitting in my room and if I have a problem, if I don't have a friend with whom I can share it and still have 2000 friends in my Facebook friends list, does it matter? Sushant, as we had the recent case, he had over 11, I think 11 million followers in Twitter, in Instagram, and yet when he had to do something, he had not one to talk to, I believe. Again, we are still in a controversial situation, but from what we understand, that's where the challenge is. It's not about success. It's not about the fame that someone gets. Recently, a few days back, a CBI officer has committed suicide. The challenge is not in what all you have achieved or what all you are. The challenge is in the sanity that you have in your own mind. That's what makes life worth living or dead. And that's where once you have a calm within your own self, once you have an answer to living calm within yourself, you will be at peace with the world over. Beyond the peace, which is if there's no peace within, there's nothing that's going to be accomplished outside world. Whatsoever you have, the followers, the liker, the people who like you, and all those things. It's that one or two relationships that matter who will be there by your side with whom you can just talk it out. And that's what I think. I have always asked this question to people when it comes to mental health. And that is what I would like to close my talk with. Can you be alone? Can you be alone and yet not feel lonely? Are you loving your company? Because that's the one that you'll be living with through your entire life. Can you be alone and yet not feel lonely? Over to you, Pragya. Uh, Pragya, are you there? Kirti, would you like to add something? Or should we open it for question answers? If anyone has any questions, if you don't want to speak it out, you can put it in the chat. You can ask it right away, however you're comfortable.
Sure, let's have the question answer round. I'm already replying privately to a lot of people on chat. If anybody has any question, you can write to me privately also. We can keep it anonymous, or you can speak if you want.
Okay, maybe Kirti, in the interest, if you need not specify the names, and if you have something which is which will be informative for everyone, you can just share without keeping that anonymous. You can share the idea with the audience for everyone's interest.
Sure. The recent chat which I'm having with this person, the question is that I see a lot of people who want help. I see that there is somebody out there who probably posts something online, or we can see that the person is getting depressive and that person do not want help. He's not outrightly expressing. How can I still help? And that's a very beautiful question asked. And this is a very huge problem in our society. We think asking help is a problem. We have to understand that we are living in a collective society. We have to have each other's back. The moment we start thinking that, if I want to take help, I am somebody who is weak, then that is a huge misconception. I may be a mental health professional over here, but if I need any financial help, I cannot do that on my own. I'll probably ask Rahul to do that. If I have to go to a Toastmaster meeting or something, I don't know how to speak exactly the right words in the right duration of time. I may contact Pragya. We all have our expertise. We are interdependent on each other. So if you want to help somebody, we can probably put out posts or something which enables an environment which is sort of contributory, and you can put out inspirational stories, or you can let them know there's help out there. As simple as that. As simple as that.
Just to add to that point, Kirti, recently I had one of my friends who called me because There's a common friend we both of us had on Facebook, and somewhere this friend who called me noted that we have a common friend by the name of ABC, and I saw one of her posts which was seeming a little depressive or kind of on a negative tone. Would you like to talk to her? Because I don't know her directly, but we are having common friends. So would you like to talk to her about why, or if everything is okay with her? Now look at the thought behind this call to me. Now that's what we're talking of. That's how society should operate. It need not be announced to the world, but somewhere if there's someone who's around you and you see even a tone which is seeming negative, it need not be announced. As I said, you can just talk to them one on one, build that factor of trust wherein they can talk to you and you can let them open up. And people, many often we have seen, like you'd agree, many often it's not the people that we know that we open up. The world today is such that we are opening up to strangers much easier than how we are opening up to someone who's known. Because obviously the judgment factor comes into picture, and where professionals like Kirti also make a difference. So all we are saying is build that circle, build that atmosphere around you wherein people can find you approachable, and you also being a person have someone to whom you can go and talk to. It's a two-way process. That's what we're talking of. Yeah, Katie.
Absolutely. I think having a non-judgmental attitude is something we all can practice, irrespective of the fact that we are a teacher or a parent or a professional in this field. Yes.
Yeah, we have a question. Let me just read that out from the chat. I always feel that I'm a double-minded person. For example, sometimes I talk well with a person, and sometimes I don't talk at all continuously for weeks or months with the same person. I don't feel sorry for that. I don't know if it is okay, but I am like this. Many times I wonder if it is normal. Aziz Ali will be coming back to you after this question. Go ahead, Katie.
All right. So this question which has been asked, I think our dynamics of relationships keep changing. We have some relationships in our life wherein we would want to communicate day in and day out. There are a lot of people we connect to once a year, probably on our birthdays or something of that sort. But that connection always remains, usually. It may happen that we are talking to one person every single day, but we are not able to emotionally open up. On the other hand, like Rahul mentioned, we may open up to a stranger, somebody we just don't know. So we have to understand our dynamics with that person. Not everybody is capable of giving us everything. One person may have that emotional energy to hold or contain you when you are in your lows. The other person may not have that capacity. We have to understand that. And again, let's not be judgmental about it. Everybody, we all have that innate nature to help each other. It's all right if you don't want to talk to somebody every day, but as long as it is a healthy relationship, it's completely all right. So,
Got it. Uh, Ali Asgar, can you go ahead with your question? Or Pragya, would you like to add something?
I would actually want to answer a question asked by Pravalika. So she's asked that what if we don't have people, always have people to share our emotions with? What if they are not enough? So, Pravalika, when we come to this point, I think we all go through these situations where we feel, I would quote it, we feel that a person is not good enough, or we can't go and share it to somebody. The only reason for that is we try to stay so confined and we put in so many expectations on that person that this is how that person should be perceiving what I am saying. This is how he or she should be listening to it, right? So when we close that particular barrier, we just go and tell it with the expectation of you venting out yourself, or you just speaking about what you are feeling, and cut down on the expectations of how much you want to share it with that person. I believe that the things will become much more easier for us. So, from my personal example, when I used to feel this thing, I was in a situation wherein for months, days, years, I did not express myself of what emotion I was going through. And I started superimposing emotions on my own mind. I started feeling that no, I can't speak about it. I'm not good enough for this thing. This relationship is not working out. You know, how can they expect this thing out of me? There's so many emotions which were running into my mind, and the only thing which I was restricting myself was speaking it out. Do not wait for there to be a right person. Express it. If you feel that the person is not understanding your particular perception, try to also think what he is understanding, he or she is understanding. If you still feel that no, it's not enough, then you have so many people around you whom you can just go and express. Right? So there are different ways of doing it. Don't put all
में वो रखा था, वो आया था, कहाँ है वो पैकेट?
And नेहा मेरे पास नहीं है.
नेहा हमारे पास कोई पैकेट
So
नहीं है.
sorry, so sorry.
नहीं कोई बात नहीं, कल चाय बना देना.
Okay, and just a small thing which I would want to add is how we take things. Take a very simple example of the situation right now. When I asked all of you to think of that one memory, one situation which hurt you, which has stayed inside you, I am 100% sure that all of you would have got something in your mind which you wanted to just speak out. That, yes, this thing happened. But how many of you really did it right now? We are here. We told you we will understand. We have a technical person. We have a motivational person. We have you have me, but still you did not. That's what we do. We restrict ourselves from reaching out to people and searching for right people. Maybe we will try. When you have to look for a person to marry, do you just go and marry the first person you get? No, right? And I'm not asking JP Mishra ji and Uma ji, but in our generation, we don't. We try to talk to people, we try to understand them or see if this is the right person. And for that, we may go and meet 4, 5, 10 people. Same thing you have to do when you're expressing your emotions to get the right person who will understand you in the way maybe you expect that person to be.
Okay. Ali,
Well, my
go ahead.
question, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So, well, it's a really insightful session. My question is, if someone is struggling with low motivation or energy, how he can figure out, what are the symptoms or signs?
Kirti, I think you'll be better placed to answer that.
Sure. So, what are the symptoms of a person feeling low or not fairly motivated? There can be disturbances in the appetite, the food eating habits. There can be shift of their sleeping patterns. We may also observe that the person does not enjoy the activities the person used to enjoy earlier. We may also see some symptoms around the way the person opens up to somebody. The lack of enjoyment is definitely one of the huge factors. But yes, everybody responds differently when there is lack of motivation. I have also seen certain people who lack motivation, but they just want to deviate from this entire feeling. And as a matter of fact, they want to deviate onto some sort of an addiction. And that can also be work-based addiction. A person may want to day in, day out work just, uh, for not feeling how the person is feeling. So everybody responds differently, but these are few symptoms which I can think of.
We had one question in the group, which is complexity of getting into a committed relationship in modern times. A lot of expectations, still there's no acceptance. Pragya, or can I go for it? Being the only man between two women, I think let me give it a shot first. From what I understand,
But tell me whether this question has been asked by a women's perspective or a men's.
She's on the receiving side, so let me answer it first. Anyways, the point is, from what I've seen or experienced in the situation that I'm seeing around, the complexity of relationships obviously has increased. One major reason from where I come to see relationships are not lasting longer or there are a lot of differences which are coming in is not going full in. That's one aspect where people are always standing on the sidelines before getting into the relationship. They always already have a preconceived notion about being hurt and the way it's going to be approached. One thing that we also have to understand that every relationship, and if you're playing it with this perspective of standing on the sidelines and waiting to see how the other person responds, it'll always end up being a game of sidelines rather than both the people getting completely into it. You have to surrender, you have to get in the relationship, and that's where you have to give in first. That's my perspective again. Relationships, again, on the technical aspects I'll ask Kirti, and on the philosophical aspects I'll ask Pragya for the woman perspective. But still, from what I see, we have to give in first. We have to go full in, and it's okay, you might get hurt. The fear of getting hurt is what stops us, is what both the genders, women and men, both equally, the fear of maybe it may not work out is what limits us into getting it. But what I've realized is the only way through a relationship is to go full in. Pragya.
Okay, here, as you have told the side of from a male and a female perspective, I will just add to the relationships which we have around us, because that also need acceptance. That relationship can be of a father and a son, a father and a daughter, a mother and the kid. And I think a lot of kids also feel this acceptance issue from their parents. Similarly, a husband and wife, we feel acceptance issues from our partners. So when it comes to this expectation that we set on our partner, first of all, what we need to understand is what is it that that other person can do. That's where the acceptance will start coming in. When we have a kid, from that time only we start expecting that he has to become a doctor, he has to become an engineer, he has to get 90 percentile or 95 percentile. Or maybe a husband and a wife relationship, they start expecting that she has to take care of the house completely, I will be out and earning, she needs to take care of every other thing around me and keep everything perfect. But have you sat and discussed it with that person, that these are the kind of expectations I have from you? What kind of expectations do you have from me? And can you fix it to these expectations, or are these too high for you? We never care to ask this question. Am I setting the right expectations with you? And that's where we are mostly crushed in all our relationships, because of these high expectations, or I would say the perceived expectations which people put on us. What we need to do for every relationship, please, even if it is a father and a son, please go sit with your partner or your kid, ask them, what do you want out of this particular relationship? What do you expect me to do? And this is what I expect from you. Can you do it, or you think it is too much? That's where we will be setting the expectations right. We will get a mutual acceptance from both the sides. On the technical front, I think Kirti can answer this particular part.
Sure. Rahul, you were meaning to say something?
That's it. If you'd like to respond.
All right, sure. So I'll keep it short. Of course, we have discussed, you both have discussed very nice points. I'll take the psychology aspect of it. That's my role over here. So what happens is, when you look at developmental psychology, and when we look at the fact that how we grow up and how we establish relationships, it's very important for us to understand that our primary relationships, which are formed early in our life, which is because of our family, our parents or our siblings, they get carried away later in life. So there is a theory of attachment styles, and this is something which helps us understand how we have grown up in our childhood and how we used to have relationships in our formative years of life. There are a lot of studies which are showing that if we don't accept ourselves, if we have a if we don't have a healthy relationship with ourselves, we would want to project them onto somebody else. We are angry with ourselves inside, but we want to show anger to the other person, and then that gets projected and it gets multiplied into something unimaginable, and we can't really trace back to the fact that, hey, it all started from me. So it's always important to first work on yourself, and only then be able to establish relationships in a better manner. So yes, that's my nugget here.
JP Mishra ji, you had your hand raised. If you have any question. JP Mishra ji?
Hello.
Pragya. Yeah, JP Mishra ji, go ahead.
My question is very simple. We all know that mental health is important to be healthy. Then why we don't follow? Why we don't consult?
Kirti, why don't people consult you?
Yes. No,
We need
not
more
me,
customers, please.
Not me. I mean, as a not only me actually. A lot of
from
people they know that mental health is important to be healthy.
Yes.
But still, why people are not asking the specialist?
From what I understand is over the past few years, I would say the awareness or the acceptance has still come in. But from what I see, where the issue was, आपको दिल का दौरा पड़ता था, रेडी जाके स्कैन कराते थे, बुखार आता था जाके कर सकते थे, नहीं मेरे को ये थोड़ा खराब लग रहा है, मेंटल है क्या? Look at what we were witnessing as an environment and how this thing was perceived, and that is where अक्सर कहते हैं वो it's a taboo. अगर आपको ये प्रॉब्लम है मतलब there is some problem. बुखार है मतलब प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, क्रोसिन है. But if there's a mental issue or there's some psychological issue, it was often the environment that was built up around this challenge is the mistake or is the error where we have all fallen flat. And now over the past few years, a lot of things have come into discussions. Kirti has chosen this profession. Things are changing for the better. Go ahead, Kirti.
I just want to add 2 points here. I think, this entire area of mental health was always there. In the earlier times in Gurukul, we always had a guru. In Mahabharata, Krishna's role was actually of a counselor. He never said, Arjun, you're supposed to do this. He said, this is what are the facts are. If you do this, these are the repercussions. If you do this, this is what will happen. Now it's up to you. Pick any religion for that matter, pick any mythology for that matter, we always have a guru system. The problem is the shift of society. We used to be in a joint family system wherein everybody had each other's back. Now we are nuclear families. We have to manage ourselves on our own. Also is the fact that now I have started using the words as coaching and guidance and not counseling, because coaching is something which is taken in a very positive stride. There is no stigma attached to coaching as such. There are CEOs who have their own coaches. There are psychologists who have their own counselors. Even I have my own counselor. I can't survive without my own counselor. So there is this entire system, but we have to probably reterm. And then if we take care of our the way we communicate with each other, if somebody is expressing that they have an issue, just ask, okay, so what next, instead of judging and jumping on to giving them advice. That is the beauty of being an ally. If you're aware of all these things, definitely we can destigmatize this entire word.
Very well said, Kirti. Just a last few questions. Zia, go ahead. Zia, you have raised your hand.
Good evening, everyone. Yes.
Go ahead, Zia.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. My question is, how you are going to educate common people about mental health? Because I think there are so many people they confused about the difference between the psychology and the psychiatry.
So here I think people like you play a very huge role. I know you have referred your own friend to me, and that is the beauty of being an ally. If we can have more awareness sessions, that will really help us build a community. Because once, for example, yes, sir, you have been the face of organizing or referring to a mental health professional, people will come to you next time if they know somebody else who has an issue. So this is like a snowball effect. The moment we stand for what we believe in, only then we will create a space where people can reach out to us. I have had so many of my own friends who contacted me after good 10 years, 15 years, and they have shared their own life struggles with me. So we have to be approachable, we have to not judge, and we have to stand for what we think. We should let people know, yes, I believe in mental health. If you need me, this is the space you can come to. That will definitely create this entire butterfly effect.
Kirti, you are
And
absolutely right.
to add this,
Oh, yeah, go ahead, yes,
yeah,
sir.
of late, I have of late
I
also
can
been seeing these messages coming on Facebook. That we are a group of people, and after Sushant Singh case maybe, but this thing did come up that we are this group of people, and they also gave their numbers as to if there's anybody who wants to just speak can keep themselves anonymous and speak to us on these numbers. So that's how also we are opening these platforms for people to get into all this,
I
and
think,
they are doing sessions.
Kirti, you'd be able to share. There are a few government initiatives, I think, or some NGOs which are also providing. Like I think Goonj is one of them, where they. I'm not sure which one is it. I'm sorry.
But we have other organizations. I just wanted to add one little nugget over here.
Go ahead.
We have to be very careful about who we are speaking to. There are a lot of people out there who want to listen, who are there, but then who will be able to help us is a very big question. I have had cases where clients came. That person said there were 10 people who opened up the space for me, but nobody really picked up my phone when I actually called them. So creating a space is important, but we have to understand, are we going to the right person or not? If there is a finance related problem, we will go to the CA. We won't go to the doctor and expect that person to help. Of course that person can help. Of course our elders can also help, our parents can also help, but we have to know each other's capacity without any judgment. That's very, very important. And yes, I will be sharing some free helpline numbers. We can
Yeah,
probably
can
put
I?
it on the group later on. Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. I think, yeah. Go ahead, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much, Kirti, for helping. One of my the friend who approached you, and also thanks for Rahul Jain for referring me to Kirti. And then I think what I mean to say is you're absolutely right. I think the more awareness is required because the person to whom I refer to you, she's in fact a headmaster of one of the the government school. I mean, and also the people like them, if they are required for the such kinds of counseling, and they don't have the clarity. So you can just imagine that the common people like us, how many they really need, the experts in mental health and the counseling and the career counseling and all these things. So that is one thing, and I really thankful to you. And I already got a feedback from her, the positive feedback, and you are so, I mean, helpful, and I think you also guided her to one of your colleague. And thank you so much, Rahul, and thank you, Kirti, for helping her. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
sir. We have our ally going on over here. Rahul, kudos to you.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I think we'll just come towards the end of the session. Really look forward to. I've just shared the meeting link, feedback for the link, a feedback link in which you can share how you like the meeting and if it was helpful and how it was helpful. We'll be really looking forward to reading your feedback comments. Apart from that, if there's anything that anyone would like to add, we'll just be closing in another 2 to 3 minutes.
Question may I ask, please?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, after going through all the opinions and views given by one and all, I really feel happy about it. And it's really a good session to be a part of it. I have been learning since the time I joined this particular session. Saturdays has become special days for me. So just I would like to ask one question. Like as what just now have been told about that you need to reach the people, you need to be approachable, you need to share the things with the other people. That is fine, it with my own experience I just would like to share with. When I was myself like very expressive and used to share everything with each and every person, not each and every person, the people whom I used to feel like comfortable with, I used to share my things with. But ultimately, it turned out to be so that I made out myself to be like an emotional fool in the end. And then I wrapped up myself, tried to keep things to me on my own, and started just giving, as what you say, no, we just give a superficial face of ours. Kaise ho aap? Haan, bas theek ho. A volcano must be going on inside, but I never utter a word saying anything to anyone. But in the end, it was just hurting me also, as we need to express ourselves somewhere or somehow. So I started talking to myself late nights, and it's better to speak to God than to speak to anyone. That's what I started feeling. This kind of therapy of mine, whether it is acceptable or not, I don't know, but I started doing it. The thing is that what I mean to say is, however good you are, you need to act according to the person you are in front of. How far it's true, I just wanted to know.
Okay. I would just like to say that you will always come across different people in your life. And I'm not saying that you'll find the right people when you are 10 years or 12 years. You could find the right people when you're 50. But the point is, unless you try, I know, as you said, making an emotional fool of yourself, it's a matter of time where the way you open up with people and the way you interact with them take a little time. I'm not saying you have to do it right away, but the more you do, the more experience you have in how you're judging people, there will always be that risk. I'm not saying that there's any foolproof technique that if someone who's as experienced as Kirti or me will not fall prey to wrong people in our life. But stopping to try, I think that's one thing where we close our doors. We close our doors to potential beautiful people who can come in our lives. That's what I think, wherein you have to keep trying, whether it's love, relationships, in companies, in your work, in whatever you're doing, love has to be there. And that is where what makes something possible. You will fail, you will have setbacks, you will have heartbreaks, but you have to keep trying. That's what I would say. Kirti.
I second your opinion all through. Very beautifully said. Love is actually the most essential emotion which a human experiences. And if there is, if somebody is experiencing hurt or anger, and if we go back to the roots, it's actually because of lack of love. So love is actually the base emotion of anything. What ma'am has asked the question: if writing down or speaking to yourself or speaking to God is helping you, awesome. My initiative named Sigh Within, it simply means go within yourself. We all have our answers. We all have that wisdom inside of us. It's only a matter of actually turning inwards. And if we are not able to turn inwards, we can take external help, because at times we have an internal struggle with which only we know. The other person may not know. We do have all the answers, we can solve everything, but take external help if that is required. If spirituality is helping, brilliant. If self-awareness is helping, brilliant. As long as it is helping, awesome. If it is not helping, try something else. So yes.
I would just like to add to the Rabia's point. As you said, uh, there were ages. There were, you can talk of even 20 years back or 200 years back. There were people sitting under a banyan tree and talking about wisdom that changed people's life. They didn't have Google at that point in time. So the answer that they would have got is something from deep thinking within themselves, the way they connected to their own souls. And that's what way they found the answers. Today, there are many answers which Google will give you. And one of the answers that Google will give you is contact Kirti. You always have that option where you can contact people who are experts in that field, who could listen to you and guide you in the right way, possibly in a better way. Because sometimes, even for me, as a motivational speaker, if I don't have the answers, there are people that I go back to. Could be, need not be experts in the world or psychological people or people who are counselors. Could be just my good friend who knows what I'm doing and what I would have been doing had I not been in this stress. And that's where the guidance comes. Sometimes a spark from the outside, a little correction from outside can help when you are misdirected, because someone else sometimes knows you better than who you are or who you're thinking you to be. And that's why spirituality is always good. The way you're connecting within is always great. If sometimes nothing works and you're still lost, take the tick from outside somewhere. You will find the answer somewhere. But the answer is you will find it somewhere. And with that, I would like to close today's sessions. I would like to thank Kirti for being on this for this event and sharing her insights, wonderful answers to some of the pestering questions that people are often not comfortable asking. I'm thanking you for answering those questions in the perspective where you are a subject knowledge expert and you had shared wonderful perspective. I would request everyone to please give your feedback in the link given in the chat, Zoom chat, for the session of how you liked it and what did you like about it. And finally, on the other extreme of challenges with mental health, there's something that I would like to share, a few 2 or 3 quotes that I've come across on the net, which I feel are very relevant because from the face of it, you never know what somebody's going, but could be that will be the last time you're seeing them. I'm not sure how and where people face problems, but I wanted to share these quotes with you. And these 2 quotes are: you have the power to say, this is not how my story will end. And that's what you have to think of anytime you think of anything extreme. Suicide doesn't end the chances of getting life getting worse. It eliminates the possibility of it ever getting any better. That's what, when you think of anything extreme, that is what you're telling, that it can't, that's the last thing that can happen, but you're missing out on what all beautiful things can happen if this step is not taken. And finally, and the most important one, because it's not just about you, we are less aware of the people that are affected by us. Most often, a whole world is affected. And that's where this quote goes: suicide doesn't end the pain. Suicide doesn't end the pain. It just passes it on to someone else. Just remember, at any point in time, if there is any challenge you're facing, remember there's help out there, there's help within. You can always reach out your hand, and nobody's going to judge you for that. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope we have added a little spark to your life, and hope this spark spreads to the ones who are around you. Thank you. Kirti, closing
Thank you
words.
so much for organizing this beautiful session. And of course, we all need each other. I also go to Rahul so many times and he helps me through. So I thank all the participants today. And if anybody needs anything, we are all here. Please feel free to reach out to us on the group or on personal chats. We will be posting the helpline numbers on the chat. And Rahul, if you could just share my number on the group, because there are a lot of
Okay.
personal private chats which I'm getting. I would like to address them one-on-one later on.
Okay. What I'll do is
On the WhatsApp group.
I'm just sharing the WhatsApp group, so for the people who are new, in the sense who are not there as a part of our WhatsApp group, you can join this group, and on that group I'll be sharing the contact of Kirti, so that you can pick it up from there. So anyone who's not a part of our WhatsApp group where we share all these events and all those things, you can pick it up from there, or you can get in touch with the admins who are in that WhatsApp group, because me and Pragya are the admin in that group. We can share Kirti's contact with you from there.
Sure. Thank you so much. Happy World Mental Health Day once again.
Thank you, Kirti, for joining us and taking out time on this day specifically for us. Thank you. I'm just waiting for another 2 minutes so that I can get your feedback in the link which I provided in the Zoom chat. Rabia, Neha, Akanksha.
Yes. Can you please share it again?
I'm just sharing it right now. 1 second. Yeah, that's the link now in the Zoom chat.
I've given my feedback, sir.
Perfect. Okay, with that, we'll be closing today's session. And next week, we'll be back again with another speak up session. Let's see what we have in store. We'll be announcing it very soon.
Feedback submitted, sir.
You're on mute, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot for that. So with that, we'll be closing the session in another 1 or 2 minutes max. Do join the WhatsApp group if you're not a part of the WhatsApp group still. I've shared the link of that WhatsApp group as well in the Zoom chat here.
Thank you guys for this insightful session. See you.
See you. Katie,
Yes,
taking it off from here. We'll chat offline then.
sure.
Okay.
Take
Sure.
care. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Have a nice day.
Bye, Rabia. You too. Bye, Rabia. Take care.